Somebody just like Scotland. So this session is a workshop on the European funded project, the RISE project, and there's a team of people from the different countries involved going to talk to you about it. But the best thing for me to do is hand over to Terry Yarnell, who's going to manage the whole of the workshop. And there'll be some participatory activities.
Can everyone hear me? Great. What we wanted to do as part of this workshop is go through what the RISE project is all about, where we've got to, where it's heading, but include as many different people as possible. So we've got all the project partners here who at some point will talk throughout the session. We've also got Mariam from Birmingham here with us, who's been very heavily involved in helping us to develop the games and been involved in testing them and is willing and open for questions towards the end. But firstly, what is RISE? RISE is a project that came out of a previous European project called PAULS. PAULS was very much around looking at the attitudinal problems and barriers that refugees and migrant workers face when coming into the UK or the other partner countries. RISE is sort of taking that the next step further in as much as we've looked at the attitudinal barriers, we've developed games to help support individuals to understand what some of those attitudinal barriers may be, but actually once someone is given the right to stay within the country that they've decided that they wish to live, the next big problem they were finding was gaining employment. So what are the barriers to employment and how do we support and use interactive technologies to develop that and support people? There's 4 partners within the project. There's Green Hat Interactive, who I work for. We're a small social enterprise working with a number of different groups. Nottingham Trent University, who need no introductions. The Integration Centre based in Dublin is a small NGO working to integrate refugees and asylum seekers into Ireland, and the University of ITAG, Ingolstadt, which is based in Bavaria. So, what were we hoping to get out of it? We're hoping to get 4 interactive games, and we'll show you, hopefully be able to show you those a bit later throughout the workshop. But there's 2 desktop games and 2 mobile games. The 2 mobile games are very much looking at some of the issues around helping people to gain access to information or to help them with the newer technology as well. Alongside that though, the important thing was that we didn't want just the games to be standalone. The games, yes, they help and they're there to support individuals to learn new things, but actually the games themselves, there needs to be some interaction with training and a level of understanding for individuals to understand what the concepts behind the games. Within that as well, we've developed a trainer's handbook, which Aoife will go through with you in a bit, to talk about really give tips and clues and lesson plans which are involved in the curriculum about how you can use the written stuff and the training materials that have been produced alongside that interactive technology as well and the games that have been developed. I'm going to hand over to Aoife now to just quickly go through the curriculum, just to give people a flavour of what it is that the games themselves at some point, hopefully, and the target are reaching.
Hi everybody, I'm Aoife, I'm with the Integration Centre in Dublin. So I'll be speaking to you about the curriculum and the trainer's handbook. So we developed the curriculum to go along with the games to reinforce the learning of the game. And we developed them out of research we did with target user groups in Germany, in the UK and in Ireland, basically on the needs that they identify in seeking employment and integrating. So these are the 5 modules that we came up with from their feedback and their work in those workshops over the course of about a year at the beginning of the project. IT skills was one of the main issues that they identified, and specifically around digital citizenship and research and participation. This one we've incorporated into the curriculum, which has lesson plans within it, which give you basic information on the subject, and then they give you suggested activities and supplementary activities So this first module is not specifically detailed, it's more an advisory module, basically. And the second one, vocational skills, this was a huge area for the target user group. And also employers and employment training people that we interviewed and did research with as well. They spoke a lot about job development and job research and job preparation skills. So job preparation looks at interview skills and CV skills, developing your understanding of the job market and how to approach employers. Also job development, understanding your skills and your qualifications and transferring them to the new country that you're working or trying to find employment within. So vocational skills is a very detailed curriculum. It gives very explanatory lesson plans and also activities and role plays that the teacher or the trainer can use with students. And it's very related to the 4 games, which we'll have a look at later. So the third one, intercultural communication. Again, this was a really big area, and particularly for the user group in Ireland. They identified this as a huge barrier for integration and also for seeking employment and sustaining employment, working within an environment with other people. So verbal and non-verbal communication. In Ireland, we're very indirect with our communication, and people find this sometimes quite difficult to understand and navigate, and I think it can be the case in other European countries. So we did a lot of work on formal and informal communication, indirect and direct communication, understanding cultural nuances and being able to identify them quickly. The second area, non-verbal communication, we looked at body language and intonation in speech and how to correctly interpret that and use it to your benefit when trying to communicate better with colleagues and also with interviewers when you're seeking employment. So those two have a lot of detailed work in them, and you'll see them reflected and mirrored in the games, particularly around interview experts and also email know-how, which looks at formal and informal communication and how to understand when to be specifically formal with a colleague and when not to be. These are the kind of areas that no one teaches you or tells you about. You're expected to pick them up while you're integrating into society, and they can take years. So we thought this was a very necessary area to look at. The fourth area, services. This is more about promoting engagement with different services that are available to migrants, to refugees, with employment training and entitlements that they're allowed to seek. So we looked at understanding the asylum system. So for each country, it's obviously very different. So we gave detailed information on the step-by-step process and who you can seek support from. Local NGOs, local county councils, depending on the country that you're in. So obviously for the UK, Germany and Ireland, this is the information provided. Daily life, how to go about integrating and promoting your own inclusion in the society that you're in. And the labour market, entry into the labour market. And the information that's given in this, again, is similar to the first module. It's not extremely detailed, it's more advisory and gives suggested activities. And finally, the fifth curriculum module, rights and responsibilities, we looked at employment rights, and this was a very big area for the target user group and came up again when we did the research initially and also when we piloted with user groups afterwards. Understanding your statutory rights, your European rights, and also health and safety. And you'll see this in the Risky Business game that will be demoed soon. This was a big area, understanding protocol and behaviour and legislation. And within the games, there's further information provided through links, embedded links, and also professional conduct, how to behave in a professional environment. So, move to the next area. So, the structure of the curriculum. The lesson plans are laid out quite plainly. They give information on the area and then your activities and suggested further activities to incorporate into your classroom. The modules that are in the curriculum can be used in sequence or they can be used in isolation. You can take one and use it in your own class with your standard material with the game or without. So they've been created in a flexible manner. The target group of refugees are very diverse in their learning needs and their abilities, and so we wanted to create a curriculum that could be used in correlation with standard language and orientation curriculums that might be used in migrant support centres and language classes in different countries. So that's the purpose of it, to be flexible and to be able to be blended into a normal classroom with the games. So each sub-module correlates to commuter games. Specifically, it will have direct links and in some ways indirect links to the curriculum to support all of the same learning content that you will see in the games. And obviously, as I said before, the modules are intended to be supplementary in fashion, to expand the information that's already provided to asylum seekers and refugees. In different countries, it depends on what you have. In Ireland, asylum seekers are not entitled to work, so they are not usually provided with any kind of employment training, only language classes, very basic language classes, and very basic computer classes. So there's no investment given to their skills in terms of employment. In Germany and the UK, it's slightly different. They are able to work after a period of time, but again, they all require the same kind of training and the same kind of inclusion. So these, as you see here, are the breakdown of the sub-modules, as you mentioned before. It's all very laid out, and you can use each curriculum one after the other or by itself, depending on the needs of your class and what they require. These are further areas within the second vocational skills module for professional and also personal development, understanding company hierarchies and how they differ between different cultures, and developing your competencies within the workplace. Intercultural communication, as I specified before, is broken down into verbal and non-verbal, and we think this is very beneficial, especially in tandem with the games. And finally, the fourth and the fifth modules of services and rights and responsibilities. So, in terms of the games and where they correlate to the lesson plans, the first game is a mobile game. It's called Email Know-How. It's to develop your formal and informal language skills within the workplace. And it relates to IT skills because it promotes digital skills in interpreting a mobile device and a computer and how to use it appropriately. Vocational skills, how to be in the workplace and understanding job duties and different work in a formal setting. And then intercultural communication. So we have various emails that come in, and the player is supposed to interpret who they might be from within a workplace. Do they know that person? Do they not? Are they in a higher position? Are they in a lower position? Are they an external person contacting the company? And then respond accordingly, depending on the formality or informality of the language in the email. We had a great response from the pilot groups when we piloted all of the games and materials over the summer, particularly for this game, which a lot of them asked to download onto their phones afterwards to continue practicing. Getting There is a second mobile game that can be used on phones, and it touches on intercultural communication. It has questions that the player must answer in order to proceed in the game. And it looks at services, so what are you entitled to, who should you engage with in a given area that you live in, and the rights and responsibilities that you have as an employee and your employer. So those two games are mobile, and those are the curriculum modules that you can work with those games. Interview Expert is a desktop game, and it is quite vast in the different areas that it touches on from the curriculum. You have job preparation, job seeking, job development, because you are going into an interview and you have to speak confidently and clearly about your skills, your experience in the home country you come from, and also the host country that you are now integrating into. Intercultural communication, verbal and non-verbal, we have this in terms of the dialogue that happens between the interviewers and the interviewees, and the different body language that is given by the interviewers and asked to be interpreted by the interviewee. And you are given advice as you progress through the game on what you may have missed or understood and how you've progressed. And also rights and responsibilities. Within the game, there are embedded links and posters and different objects in the rooms that the player can click on and get further information localized to the country that they are in the UK, Germany, or Ireland. And finally, Risky Business, which is another desktop game, and that looks at health and safety and professional conduct within a factory environment. So it can be transferred to many different working environments, the different information that's provided in the game, and how the person is supposed to interpret the challenges that they are given and the tasks that they are given as they progress through the game. It looks at verbal communication from the different colleagues in the setting, the person that gives the induction to the trainee as they come into the environment, and also services and rights and responsibilities, specifically health and safety. This was one of the main games that the UK target group, when we were conducting the research, specified as a big learning need for employment. The trainer's handbook, lastly, I'll talk briefly about. This is a piece of material that we developed to enable the trainer, the facilitator, the language teacher, whoever it might be, to use the games and the curriculum in a blended learning approach. It specifies where all of the games correlate to the different curriculum lesson plans and how you should use it in a flexible manner. It's supposed to be used as a quick guide for the trainers, so they don't have to wade through all of the lesson plans to find where they can link them to the different games. They can quickly look at the different module numbers, find the game, and then deliver the lesson plan, and then allow the students in the class to play the game in pairs, in groups, or on their own, depending on their ability level. So the trainer's handbook is quite necessary, we think, because it gives a cohesive structure to both resources and allows the trainer to use them quite quickly. and provide instruction also as to the technical aspects of the resources, how to download and run the games, to store them on your devices, and accessing admin rights and so on for the trainers. So all of these are quite necessary in order to use both resources together to promote co-learning and co-discovery amongst the participants, or sorry, amongst the students that they would have in their class. And we'll move on now to finally the piloting that took place. This was conducted in Germany, Ireland and the UK, and it took place over the summer with refugees and asylum seekers. A total of 25 participants took place between refugee and migrant support centres, and we tested the games and also the curriculum with them all, and we gained feedback from the trainers in the classroom and also from the students to modify the games and to modify the lesson plans and also the trainer's handbook so they could be better used. And I will quickly speak about the Irish group, and then I will hand over, I think, to talk about the UK. Oh, sure, yeah, so I'll go back to here. Sorry, I sped up the game slightly. I will hand back to
Right, so we've had a few technical problems getting the games displaying, as you've seen us clearing it out. We're just going to have to reconfigure this a little bit so we can use the laptop sensibly.
While Nick's sorting that out, one other thing that was going on during the project is that as part of the degree course at Nottingham, the students who were doing their games design degree were also given exactly the same brief that we had. So for them to come up with games of what they think was needed. So they had the same information, and these are just some screenshots of some of the games that have been produced. So, but they had access to refugees and asylum seekers, they had access to the partners and could ask questions. So it's very much a key part of their degree course in trying to develop a game or develop a tool that could be used and having a customer to do that in a real life situation.
Okay, now I'm on this screen here. What you're looking at on this screen is the RISE website, rise-project.eu, and this is the location where you'll be able to get access to all of the games. The games and curriculum are all off the resources tab, or the resources item on the website. We have the trainer's handbooks, games and the curriculum. If I just point you at the curriculum first, wrong link. The curriculum is a summary of the learning objectives delivered by the project, and this is broken down into a number of lesson plans, which we will soon get to. So this is the full list of lesson plans covering the all of the curriculum that the RISE project identified, and these are also available on each of the games pages. When I go to the games page, these are the 4 games that we produced: Risky Business, Interview Expert, Email Know-How and Getting There. These will provide you with access to the desktop games as download links, and for the mobile games, a link to the game on Google Play. Each of these also has access to the lesson plans specific for that particular game. So we have also provided direct access to those lesson plans specific to each individual game. So having given you a quick tour of the website, I'm going to demo the mobile games to you. Obviously, you can't demo a mobile device very easily on here. I have, however, got a mobile emulator running for one of the games. This is Email Know-How, available in English context, Irish context and German context. You need to enter your name, so I'm just going to pop my name in here.
While Nick's sorting that out, this game really comes from the basis of formal language, and the fact that the job market now is changing. You know, A few years ago, some of us are old enough, it was very much you went in the job centre and you've got a local paper and you applied for a job. Now it's very much around completing CVs, it's around sending emails and having contact with employers via that route. So it was felt that this was important that people understood the process, but also understood the language that you use within an email, whether it be a formal or an informal, whether it be a professional or not.
So this app intends to mimic as relatively closely an email app. So here we have our inbox. The preamble just said that you've started a new job and you need to deal appropriately with emails incoming. So we open our first email.
Excuse me, could we have a couple of minutes to move forward so we might actually see what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So this presents a number of different emails in different contexts. Some are formal, some are informal. You get the incoming email and you have to decide whether to trash the email or reply to the email and try and form appropriate responses to that email. So I'll just read what this email says. Hi Nick, welcome back. I hear you were in Greece on holidays. I hope you had a lovely break. Can you send me the contact details for Helen Green in the recruitment agency you were telling me about last month, please? I have a position in our department I want to advertise. Let me know where you're going for drinks next Friday. I'd love to come along. So it's a relatively chatty, maybe not the right word, work email. So in replying to this, we then build our reply. Dearest, hey or hi. So I think I'm going to say dearest Tom. So where you have an option to select more than, you build the email up by adding text to the composition, and where you have an option you can have more or less formal language. So dearest Tom, Greece was really great. Thanks, thank you so very much. Tar, I'll say tar. I've attached her personnel data, her contact details as a Word file for you. Listen, I've been working on da-da-da, so I'm just going to choose a few, probably slightly less appropriate choices there. And I'm now, faithfully, Nick, I'm now ready to send my mail, so I can decide, I might want to change an element here, so I should be able to change my selections before sending, and then when I hit send, it gives me a breakdown of how I performed. So, dearest, formal, that's quite good. Tar, informal, used more in conversation. So it gives me some feedback on the selections I made and gives me pointers on how I might improve my responses. There are a dozen or so conversations in this app at the moment, addressing more or less formal info, and I might get, yes. So now I've got one of the ringers in here, I've got a spam email. So my email account expires in 2 days from Help Desk Webmaster. These are actual spams that I got, and so the content is quite realistic. And so if I reply to that, I lose because I've fallen for the spam. So that's a quick run through of email know-how. The other mobile game that Aoife mentioned was Getting There. So this is more of a gamey type game, and I've compiled this to run in a web player, so we'll be able to play this on, I'll be able to show you this on in the browser. So this is more of an action style game, a way of presenting multiple choice questions. So tap left and right sides of the screen to avoid obstacles and pick up health. That's all the info you're given. The point about games is that you have to run through them a few times, fail to start learning from them and to start understanding the game mechanic. So if I get started, here we are, here's our car driving along. Oh, if I just pause, I think we've got some sound on here. Yes, we have. Let's have some sound. Okay. So I can tap the left and right sides of the screen. So this is touch screen, made for a touch screen, and I've hit a power up. If I get the question right, then I heal some damage. If I get the question wrong, then I lose a life. So an employee who is a refugee can be paid less than a UK national, must be paid at least the minimum wage, will be paid cash in hand. Oh, cash in hand, please. Yes, please. And bang, I got that one wrong. So I carry on, and there, if I need to try and avoid these potholes to avoid collecting damage. If I do get some damage, I can heal the damage by answering a question correctly. So something that is assumed to be a part of a contract that isn't written down is an implicated term, an impossible term, or an implied term. Now, I reckon that's implied term, and yes, I'm right. So the game proceeds like this, covering 3 different areas as the 3 different levels of the content. I think Ethan will have to remind me of those because
The purpose behind the game and the quiz questions was really around looking at rights and responsibilities, cultural awareness, things to expect in the workplace. The benefit of it is as well, though, it is editable, so you can put your own questions in there. It's quite a simple editor, so you can change and adapt and change the order. So it's very much. So we found it's been a very engaging game. So
it's the web page actually details these areas: the non-verbal intercultural communications, services, which includes things like entering the labour market, and rights and responsibilities. The rights and responsibilities was the first level that we got there. I will now close that to give you some peace and hand over to Andy or Steve to demo a couple of the desktop games.
The next game that Andy's going to demonstrate is Interview Expert, and again that's quite a clear purpose behind it is to help someone go through that process of an interview. In Europe we have quite a rigid format, if you like, for the way that people interview and the process that you go through. So this was very much aimed at helping someone to explore that process.
Okay, so the idea behind this game, Interview Expert, is you come to a job interview. You start off in the waiting room, and you can pick up some information in the waiting room, and then you progress through to a job interview situation where you then answer some questions from a pair of interviewers, and this should guide you towards the sorts of questions you may be asked and make you a little bit more familiar with the kind of situations you will experience in a job interview. So I'll click my way through this. As you can see, we've got English, Irish and German context again here. And we can switch between 2 characters. I can be either Grace or Zaya. I'll choose Zaya for now. And it gives you a few instructions about how to control the game. So as you can see, I'm now in the waiting room, ready for my job interview, and I've got an instruction at the top which says to view the posters. So what I can do is to go and have a look at some of these posters. If I hit the space bar to read them, I get a zoomed in view of the poster, which I can then click on, and somewhere in the background there we should have opened a link. So there we go, that's the link that is open. If I don't run it full screen, that comes up over the top. So anyway, so in this case it's journey planning. There are 4 posters in the waiting room, so there's links in those to information about planning your journey to work, about your rights in the workplace. Just have a little wander around so we can see what they are. Health and safety at work, about job centering, finding work, and about your rights at work. So there's a number of links there which can provide a user with information in a nice, concise format, and it'll be up-to-date information because those are links to live websites. So moving on through the game, if I can get just a little bit near the door. Okay, so we're approaching the interview situation now. There's some items on the table which I can look at. So there's an ID card and a CV. You can click on those to get information about writing CVs, about what proof of identification you might need in a job interview situation. And then you go on and actually take your interview. So we speak to the guys, and so this will then take you through an interview scenario where you have to speak. So these. So the interviewers speak to you, and then you get into a situation where it'll ask you a question. So in this case, it's what do you say in reply? And we've got several options. We can say, good afternoon, sir and madam, it's a pleasure to be here. Hi, how's everything? Or hello, Deirdre and Connor, it's nice to meet you both. So we choose our selection from there, and then they give you appropriate responses depending on what answers you give. So this takes you through the greeting stage, whether you're formal or informal, the handshake, moving on through standard interview questions, and it should give you a whole experience of the job interview scenario.
Now I'm going to hand over to Steve just to show you the final game. The final game, Risky Business, is very much centred around health and safety in the workplace and within a factory setting. This came from the initial research where a lot of people were saying, well, if we were back home, we don't have to wear hard hats, we don't have to follow these rules and regulations. So it's about trying to get an understanding of what it is. So it's been very much designed around your first day at work. One of the real added benefits to this was we were given access to a factory by an employer who's hoping to use it also for another purpose. He employs a lot of refugees and asylum seekers, and what he was saying is people will turn up at the interview and say, yes, I understand health and safety. So he's going to use it very much as a test and see, do they really understand? And that's not in his eyes, that's not about actually saying, well, you haven't passed the test, so we're not going to give you a job. It's about saying, well, where are you at within your knowledge? So rather than, so it's trying to gauge so that he can then implement the right training at the right time.
Hi everybody, I'm going to give you a quick demo of running around the factory, which Terry's just introduced kindly. The demo that Andy has just given you beforehand basically focused on all conversational stuff, so I'm going to show you a bit more of a walk around interaction sort of thing. So here we have our interactive factory, and when we first walk in, we speak to our receptionist, introduce ourselves, and basically in this text here she gives us a list of tasks which we have to do. The first task which we have to do is clock on before we can actually enter the factory and walk around the factory. And once we've done that, we're given the information to also where we have to go. And our first task is to go and find our team leader. So she introduces what a clock and gun card. This is a clock and gun card. If you place it in the slot of the machine over by the door, it will log the time which you've entered the building, and this registers that you're in the building for the fire officer. So basically what we've tried to do with this one is follow the exact procedure which you have to do when you enter into a factory or workplace. So that's our initial interaction, and we've got some readable signs, just as Andy was showing you, and there we have our clocking on machine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the door, clocked on, and once I've clocked on we can actually enter into the factory environment itself. Now, dotted around the environment we have various interactive things such as lockers, and using the lockers, which I'll show you in a second, you can put on various items of clothing, and we also have various signs dotted around as well. So you've got, as we advance further into the game, which I'm not going to do, We've got various cause and consequences sort of areas, so if you went into a certain area without a piece of personal protective equipment, such as a dust mask, you'll get told off because you've entered that area and that's unsafe. So that's one of the ways which we're enforcing health and safety. So I'll just show you a locker. So I can open a locker, standard player inventory which you have in sort of computer games, and I'm just going to equip myself with some boots and shouting. Once I've done that, I can now enter the zone. Had I not clocked on beforehand, before getting this far, basically both those doors and gates would have been locked. So again, we've got various things around the environment, so you have to progress in the correct manner in order to continue. So I'll just walk up the stairs. And here we have Thomas. Talk to Thomas. So here we have a sort of another conversational interaction, but this one's slightly different in the fact that we've got some questions embedded in here as well. So this first set of questions, I'm going to stop here in a minute, is basically where the player can first give their sort of level of understanding of health and safety in the workplace. So there's no right or wrong answers here, well there are right or wrong answers, but it's a case of from this area here we can grade just what the knowledge is of that person. And then as we progress through the game, we can basically, you have several sort of interactions where you've got more questions and you have to complete various tasks. So why do we need to clock on? I'm choosing between the answers here. Sorry, I'm going to get one wrong. So I can feel part of the company. Who is responsible for health and safety in the workplace? Both the employer and the employees. So that's great. And then he introduces the topic of personal protective equipment. And then basically a few more questions. I'll just run through these. And he's basically given us a task, so now we have to go and get correct pieces of personal protective equipment for each area of the factory.
So, those are the 4 games. As I said, the 4 games come out of our initial research and out of the key things that people were actually telling us. What we want to do now is just give you a brief feedback of what's happened during the piloting sessions and some of the feedback we've had, because that has in 1 or 2 cases quite dramatically changed the way the games have actually developed and how they now look. So if I quickly hand over to Swetha to talk about Ireland.
Hi again. So we piloted the games with the curriculum in July in Ireland in a migrant support centre that works with a lot of asylum seekers. It has a lot of asylum seeker centres in proximity to it. And these were the profiles of the participants who took place. There were 7 of them in total, and they came every day for a class over the course of a week with the same facilitator. And they represent a series of different statuses. The former refugee, has now become an Irish citizen, and this person was part-time employed, but the rest of the people were unemployed and seeking work, except for the asylum seekers who aren't entitled to work, but would hope to be eventually. And they all tested the games and gave a great deal of feedback, and we're very happy to have participated in the project, particularly as there's nothing really available like this in standard language classes where they are. And they had mixed literacy level. So it was found by the facilitator in a lot of the feedback that she gave that they worked very well together, and they worked in pairs, and often someone who had a higher language level or higher computer competency worked with someone with lower skills, and in this way they were able to observe and be assisted in their gameplay, and then by themselves would improve. And she noticed this particularly with one participant who had extremely low language and computer skills, but progressed the most throughout the week and enjoyed the games immensely. So they all worked very well together, and there was a very good group dynamic, and especially in terms of giving feedback and so on. And they asked to download the mobile games to take them away for the ones that did have mobile devices after the piloting. The suggestions that they gave have been incorporated into the games by the game developers, and we've altered some of the information perhaps in the lesson plans, and so how they can be delivered. and in the trainer's handbook based on the feedback they gave. This was a separate group to the research group that we would have had at the beginning of the project, but also would have had the same immigration statuses and the same kind of employment or skills needs backgrounds. So it reinforced the different areas that are relevant to them in seeking employment and for which they need improvement. They're particularly taken with the employment information, the interview skills information, and the formal and informal language and non-verbal communication information in the games and in the lesson plans, and found that it was very beneficial, particularly for those who had been asylum seekers for a very long period of time and have been in residence in different centres but can't work and may have learned language and may have oriented themselves to the services that they can avail of and so on, but don't perhaps pick up on cultural and social nuances and subtleties that were within the games. And for those people that were new to the country, the games, particularly the mobile ones, like getting there in its kind of simplistic game-like way, provided information in an easy format that they were able to use and appreciate. And so the games met needs on both levels, we found. And as the lesson plans are developed for basic and independent users, the games, again, are played at different levels to mirror that. So I'll hand over next to... just one last thing. These are two quotes taken from some of the participants in our group, how they found the piloting week and the use of the resources. And as you can see, they were very positive in their description of their time in the piloting and the different aspects that they found useful in the resources. I'll pass you over now to the German partners, Manuel, to talk about their piloting. Yeah.
My name is Manuel, which is my colleague Daniel from the University Eichstätt. So IFAT had told a lot about piloting, how it works, so we had also a group of people, in the specific 12 participants, having a look at the games and at the curriculum. Also then we have moreover some experts and social workers having a look at the games and the curriculum, so we have both comments from the user and from those who could need and could use these tools. Just quickly going through the profile of the participant, they were very heterogeneous, so from age and gender, but also from their competences, from their skills, language skills, computer skills, from their engagement. So we've got like some participants very engaged and very interested in using the game and being interested in the curriculum and what the project wants to show, and other less interested in the content of in the products of the project. The most difficult part of the interaction with the participant, of course, the language aspect. As you can see, the language skill, we've got some of them speaking very good English and very good German, some of them who couldn't speak German at all, so we need to have an interpreter, somebody translating for us in their own language, especially with the Afghanistan women, which obviously caused some problems because you're not sure if the translation is exactly what you want to say, so you're not communicating directly with this person that is going through a translator. So it was kind of difficult in some parts. During the contact with the participant, it was also being said that the integration in the work is obviously a big important part for the integration in the society, but it's not the only one. It was focused also on the situation of those refugees who need to leave their country because political reasons were very actively social and political in their country, and as soon as they arrive in a new country giving them asylum, they didn't have the opportunities to keep on doing their activities. So this was, as I said, the integration in the labor market is very important, but there were other aspects very important which were highlighted by the participant. And I give the word to my colleague Daniel, who is going to give some feedbacks from the participant and from the trainer and from the expert and social workers that have seen the products of RISE.
Okay, there's one slide missing now, I don't know, but so because we have just prepared one slide with the feedback for the games, so I'm doing it now from my paper. So as my colleague Manuel has told you, we had a very different participants in the group, and so the feedback has been very different. But there are some common points that we can name. So first of all is that the game shouldn't be so long, or shouldn't be too long, so that you can keep the interest in playing the games during all the time. A very important point that was named is that it's important to get a feedback at the end of the game, but also during playing the game. So you're not alone with the decisions you have made and the options you chose. So you get a feedback if it's right or wrong with what I have done in the game. And another feedback was that they found it all a very interesting thing to learn things and to provide contents, but it's very, very important to have face-to-face contacts, especially if you're learning a language, German or English. It's very important to have the possibility to talk to each other and to talk to other people. So it's a good thing to have the combination of the games and the curriculum. Okay. We also tested the other products of the project, like the handbook and the curriculum, and we were told that the handbook, the trainer's handbook, is a very good thing to get a quick and comprehensive impression of the project and its products. And also the curriculum, it's a guideline, it gives orientation to the trainers, what contents or topics we could provide the people in our courses. And it's a very flexible tool, so we can adapt it concerning to the different characters and different needs in the group. And also it's the combination, I think, between the curriculum and the games, so you can link both elements. It's very important. Okay.
Just to sort of wrap the session up, in the UK we had two groups. We had a group in Nottingham. I'd like to thank Nottingham Refugee Forum for all the help and the feedback that they gave, because it's been really invaluable. And we had a group in Birmingham. The problem we had with the group in Birmingham is that a lot of the people that we did the original research with either moved on or had different skills, so we unfortunately didn't have such a large group there. But across that we had 7 refugees, and actually in Birmingham we had a trainer from the Red Cross who was involved in piloting and looking at the game. So it was a really valuable input that he gave, because he was coming at it from a different point of view. He was coming from it, if I was to have access to these tools, would I use them? And how would I use them? So he very much was giving us a lot of feedback on the lesson plans and on the curriculum. We piloted the 4 games over a number of weeks and fed back all that information back to the engineers to ensure that those changes need to be made, to make them more playable, to make them better, but to also make sure that the information that was in them was coming across. And within the group in Nottingham, we did actually do a couple of sessions. We actually worked with a group with the lesson plans, because it's really important to the games were developing and getting to a point where they were being completed, but we needed to test and make sure that the lesson plans and the curriculum met that need as well, because there's no point in developing 2 products effectively side by side that have got to work together if then they don't work together. So we did some sessions around that. The feedback we were given was that they found the games very useful, and I noticed with a group that I was working with a couple of weeks ago who had very poor English skills, but they were supporting each other, which was really good, in as much as, especially on getting there with the car, they were supporting each other to discuss the questions and debate them, and we ended up in a debate. I think one of the questions asked that within your contract of employment it tells you how many biscuits you're allowed. And they were debating, well actually, and because of the way the question was put, they actually were starting to question themselves and say, well, is that something that you have in the UK? And, and it was quite an interesting dynamic to see them. And they found all the games were engaging, and they found those that we worked with at the lessons that we delivered, we did a session on CV writing, because when we were working with the group, we were talking about CVs, and it became apparent to us that no one actually had a CV. So it was like, well, okay, we'll do the next session around writing a CV. That added vital information which related to the use of the game, so it made them more real. That's really everything that we wanted to bring out in respect to the thing. That we've got just over 5 minutes. There is, Mariam has come over from Birmingham and is happy. She was involved in the project right from the beginning and was involved in the Pause project beforehand as well. And she's been very much, so if anyone's got any questions about her experiences and what it's like for her, because it was very important for us as a partnership, but we got the users and the end users view right from day one, because I don't know what the difficulties are for being a refugee and trying to find employment. I might have a good guess, but it doesn't mean that's correct. So it was really important that we got that. So if anyone's got any questions either for Mariam or anyone within the partnership, this is your chance. What's happening now, right? The games, in the future is that the games, there's 1 or 2 changes that need to be made, they're going to be finished and finalised. Then you'll be able to access them and download them off the website in full with the curriculum and the trainer's handbook. Those groups, obviously, we have contact, we're going to spend the next couple of months contacting groups, getting involved and coming along and seeing you and saying, right, these are the games, any questions and any support you may need from a point of view of downloading them and making them work. We have had one problem with one organisation where their security settings on their firewalls were so high, we've sort of having to go back to their network and say that we need to start just to let these through so we can get them set up. So we'll work with those groups, we'll work with those individuals, and then obviously look at the future in respect to the games. I don't know, from Mariam's point of view, how do you see the games being used?
Since the beginning of the games, what we have seen is the questions would really be difficult for us to go around asking and not knowing where to go. At least with the games, we found out that it was easier to play the games and really understand what is your next step and where you should go. Or if you had a question, it would be easier for you to really play the game and get the answers from the games. Yeah.
And also, as part of the wider partnership, I think we're all keen for the, for what's the next stage? How do we take it next? What's the next point to either improve what we've got or develop even further? Because obviously the world doesn't stop still. That's why we've getting there. We've tried to make it as future-proof as we can on the basis of you can change the questions, you can put your own questions in, and again we'll be doing sessions with groups and saying about what questions do you want. We'll do a session with you, show you how to use it, how to do that, and how to make those changes. And within that, once those changes are made, they'll go back to Nottingham Trent so that everyone who's using those games gets to see those questions as well. So you're not only going to be helping yourselves in respect to what's relevant to you locally, you're going to be helping a wider audience.
Will there be somebody who's still in charge?
Nottingham Trent University will still be in charge and responsible for that side of it. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Richard Ketley, Nottingham Trent Uni, product design. I'm just wondering how you captured the participants' experience and how that kind of connected with the process of developing games.
It wasn't a one-time thing. Because of many interactions, like many meetings, that's how you can really get to know how we are doing with the games, plus are they beneficial to us. So because of the many meetings together, it becomes easy for them to really understand if they're working or not.
And also, from the early design phase, we did the old-fashioned traditional way of just asking questions, of saying, what are the problems? What problems do you have? And what we found was that people were once they got past that reticence, one of the exercises we did was lots of questions on flip chart and talking with people and then using a post-it note. So they effectively stayed anonymous, so they didn't have to if they didn't want to, but actually from that we could then pick out the key areas. And then what we found was, though, that once people started writing things down, they started wanting to talk about it as well. So, I went for a job interview and I didn't understand why they didn't like that I didn't shake their hand. And all this sort of thing. So it was very much, as Mario says, there was a number of sessions. I think we held something like 12 plus sessions with the group in Birmingham of literally exploring all those issues. And we worked with two different groups as well. So one had a very high level of English and another group had a very low level of English. So again, it was quite interesting. That's where the language issues come out around formal and informal language, because they didn't understand. They were in an ESOL class, so they said, we're learning proper English, but you all talk differently. You use different slang words, you use different, within the workplace. So it was about how do we get that across about, what to expect in the workplace, what to expect around that. Penny.
Did some people persuaded that playing games was an appropriate use of their time?
Yes and no, because at times there are things to learn. Because normally you'd think everyone knows everything. But after you start learning and through the meetings, it becomes more easier to know that really with games, it's better than nothing.
I think we learned a lesson from the Pause project in as much as we started using the games, and one of the original games from the Pause project was using a joystick, and one group in particular refused to use it because they said joysticks are for children. That's what you use on, So we sort of suddenly had to rethink everything and go back to, if we're going to use a computer, then we need to use the mouse. But what we found is, and I think the other groups it's been borne out as well, it's had a two-level input in as much as it's helping their IT skills. So as the digital generation moves on and more is happening within the digital world, they've gained a lot more benefit from the fact of playing the games, not only from what they're learning within the games themselves and what they're aimed at, but actually how to use a mouse, how to use the keyboard, how to navigate your way around a computer screen. So yeah, we did have those issues, and it was very much a male thing as well, wasn't it? Especially in Birmingham. The group in Birmingham is very much a male thing. Joysticks, that's kids, that's children. We don't want anything to do with that. Which was quite, so again, whether that was a cultural, I would say that was a real cultural issue. So yeah, it did present a few issues.
What I can say now is, the good thing about it is, with the background of where I come from, things like playing games will be like a children thing, but now when you start playing to understand some situations, it becomes even more interesting. So, it's really good.
Any more questions? I would hope that through the games and potential future work, and talking to our partners, that yes, Green, I can speak from our perspective. Green Hat, we've been involved with other games for people with intellectual disabilities, for a wide range of people. the interesting thing that this project has thrown up for us is the factory game, the risky business game, is that we've got an employer interested in using it as part of his training process. So he's looking at it from a completely different point of view, but he's actually saying, well, you know, and it's an audience we didn't expect to actually, you know, hit, if you like, in as much as we were very focused on the refugees and asylum seekers. And when he found out about it, it was like, well, no, come to my factory because I think it would be really useful because I could see how people react and interact with that. So in respect to that, all the information around health and safety, what personal protective equipment, the legislation has come from him and his staff. His health and safety manager has been very, you know, coming and saying, well, this is what we have to have in the factory. So, you know, again, it's sort of giving it a different dynamic. So yeah, we would like to see that a wider audience use that. Well, if there isn't any more questions, Shirley's been around and handed out everyone a sheet. If you're interested in the project, or you've got information that, you know, want further information, if you could complete that, and we'll collect that. Yeah, if you leave it on the table there. This afternoon at the exhibition, we'll have the games on the table. I've got a mobile device with me where people can try and test them and try them out. And I think it's time for lunch. Oh.
Just one more thing, if you are interested in getting the materials, they're all on the website. There's leaflets with the web address on, and you can also use the website to leave comments. It's a little confusing in that I think the feedback is actually under the sign up button at the moment there, but we have a place for you to leave live comments on the website. So if you've got any requests or any information or any comments about the materials, or you want to engage with NTU and the rest of the partnership in trying to find ways to continue to develop these things, then that's an avenue for direct contact with us. So all the materials will be available on the website. It will be fully live and complete at the end of this month. So we are doing some final finalisation of the end of the website.
And the link is on the flyers which are given out in all of your welcome packs for the conference today.
Okay, thank you to the speakers. That really interesting workshop. So please, if you fill out your leaflets, put them on which table do you want them to go to, Nick? To Shirley.
Sorry, either just the table there, over there, or just outside.
I think perhaps best to give them which table. Have you got? Don't we have an exhibition stand now? Why don't we take you to the Rise exhibition stand and then go in the right place? So now we have half an hour for lunch, and then in half an hour's time we're going to do the exhibition. And for the exhibition, I'll take everybody around who's interested to each of the stands. The exhibitors have 4 to 5 minutes to tell you very briefly about their exhibition. So please follow me around. I'll have an umbrella. Please follow me around, and you can give the exhibitors a chance to really talk to you about your exhibition, and we go around in 5 minutes each. Brilliant. Lunch first then.